Okay, so here's the latest on the Russia-Ukraine situation. President Vladimir Putin said he would recognize the independence of two Russian-led breakaway regions in the Ukraine, a move that threatened to scuttle negotiations with the West over the future security of Eastern Europe that could be used to justify an incursion of the territories. In other words, Putin already got away with taking over Crimea, which used to be part of the Ukraine, and now it looks like he's going to be taking over two of the states in the eastern part of the country. And if you appreciate this brief update, please like and subscribe. He's already taken over Crimea and got away with it. Now he's going to nibble a couple of the more states. These two states combined are called the Donbas region, which consists of Luhansk and Donetsk. And these two states, he claims, have a majority of people that want to be part of Russia. And the Ukrainians deny that claim. And as he said in his statement, and I'll read this from the Wall Street Journal, the situation in Donbas is becoming critical. And he said this in a live televised address. And he said, Ukraine is not just a neighbor, it is an inherent part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space. Mr. Putin said the Russian government will draft and sign documents recognizing the independence of the two breakaway states in the near future, and said Russia would sign mutual assistance treaties with them. Now, before the address, Putin called French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and told them of his decision, the Kremlin said in a statement. Now, the European leaders expressed their disappointment with this development, but indicated their readiness to continue contacts, the Kremlin said. Now, the decision to recognize the self-proclaimed republics of Donetsk and Luhansk came as Kiev asked the United Nations Security Council for an urgent meeting to tackle the threat of the Russian invasion. Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, said that he made the request Monday after a substantial escalation in military activity between Russian-backed forces and Kiev government troops. Now, deciding to recognize the two territories in Donbas would likely grant the Kremlin greater sway over these two regions, already proxies of Moscow, and hand Putin an additional trump card in negotiations in his current standoff with the West over the long-term security of Eastern Europe. In other words, Putin saw that he couldn't get away with invading the whole country without tremendous economic consequences, so he decided to take little nibbles of pieces of the country as he did before. A White House official said Monday that President Biden was meeting with the national security team at the White House and was getting regular briefings on the situation with Russia and Ukraine. Tensions have been steadily rising across the region despite signs that the diplomatic initiatives have been making tentative progress. And it says that U.S. Secretary Antony Blinken has proposed a meeting with Sergei Lavrov, his Russian counterpart, this week in Europe that could lead to a summit between President Biden and Putin. On Sunday, in a move brokered in part by Mr. Macron, Mr. Biden agreed in principle, as you probably heard, to meet the Kremlin leader, provided that Russia pulls back from a potential attack in Ukraine. On Monday, Mr. Putin appeared to make the case for invading Russia's smaller neighbor, describing Ukraine as a tool used by the West for confrontation with Russia. Putin also accused Ukraine of taking a hostile stance toward Russia-controlled areas of Donbas and said the government in Kiev wasn't willing to implement the Minsk ceasefire agreement signed after Ukrainian forces were routed in Donbas in 2015. Ukraine has rejected Moscow's interpretation of the deal, which says it provides Russia's proxies in the region a veto over any attempt to align Ukraine more closely with the West. Now, it says the Russian leader also repeated his objections to Ukraine being allowed to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, stating that Kiev would use it as an opportunity to forcibly try to retake the Crimean Peninsula, which Moscow annexed, as we said, and they did that in 2014. If Russia faces such a threat as the admission of Ukraine into NATO, then the threats to our country will increase, Putin said. And naturally, markets were unsettled by the latest development. U.S. stock markets were closed on Monday due to President's Day, but the stocks Europe fell 1.3%. The MOEX, Russia's benchmark stock index, dropped 10.5%, which is the largest daily percentage decline since March 2014 during Russia's invasion of Crimea. Ukraine's hryvnia and Russia's ruble both fell against the dollar. Brent crude, the international oil benchmark, rose 1.4% to $94.84 a barrel. And then on Monday, Russia's military said it destroyed 2 Ukrainian armored vehicles and killed 5 Ukrainian personnel inside Russia's territory. And this apparently happened Monday, but offered no evidence of the alleged incursion. As Ukrainian and Western leaders warned, Moscow was seeking pretext to mount an attack. And then to add to the mystery, Ukrainian military spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Pavlo Kovacic said no such incident occurred. It never existed, he said. The whole false claim of a Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance team being caught somewhere near the Russian border is completely false. There are no Ukrainian service members that are missing in action across the Russian border. Another Ukrainian official said it reminded him of the alleged shelling of Soviet forces by Finland and Manila, something that turned out to be a made-up attack that triggered the Soviet invasion of the nation in 1939. So apparent Soviet misinformation. In fact, Kiev said it isn't carrying out any offensive operations now that some 190,000 Russian troops have amassed on Ukraine's border, and that its forces have been holding back on returning fire to avoid giving Moscow any excuse for invasion. Russia, stop your fake producing factory now, Mr. Cabela said. He's the Ukrainian foreign minister that he tweeted out on Monday. Now, Western intelligence officials said that Russian forces have continued to build along Ukraine's border in the past 72 hours, including the deployment of its S-400 air defense systems. So that's what's happening in the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. It's having tremendous repercussions around the world. Many world leaders are quite tense about this situation, are trying to negotiate some type of truce so that it doesn't lead to an invasion. So what it looks like now is Putin is just trying to take little bites out of the country to try to get his ultimate goal to apparently take over the whole country, but time will tell. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this update. Please click like and subscribe. This is The Business Guy.